Welcome everyone to What the Force. I'm Marie-Claire Gould, your host, and with me for all of these Skeleton Crew episodes is my co-host, Kyle Gould.
On the show and in life.
Exactly. And we are going to be covering episode 3. Very interesting as an astrogational problem.
Yep. What a title.
I think it's great. It's a good choice.
Yes. VIAAAP. The app.
Yeah. I have really been enjoying this show. How have you felt about it?
Yeah, it does a lot for me. It's interesting on its own as an adult, as a story. It has a lot of interesting components to it. It harkens to nostalgia, so the little boy in me who loved these sorts of adventure movies, aka the Goonies, I love it for that as well. And then also the Star Wars fan in me loves it too, because it's a new way of almost looking up at Star Wars, right? As though from a child's perspective.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of camera angles that are up towards people and most things. So you definitely see things from a lower perspective throughout. And I do love that as well. And so it's really doing a lot of different things for me. How about you?
Yeah, it's to me filled with a lot of joy, and I think that's what John Watts is really good at, is capturing sort of the moment of being whatever person is on film. So we know him best from the Spider-Man No Way Home trilogy, of course, and
can I hit on this for a second too? Because I found I was digging, and you end up on those IMDb like punch throughs, right where you just keep going through IMDb, and you're like, oh, what about this? And oh, what about, you find all these like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon sort of thing that's going on from that. Okay, so this is directly connected to John Watts, but at the very end of this episode, there's the New Republic X-Wing pilot.
Mm-hmm.
He has a line. You see most of his face, right? Yep. And I was like, well, who the heck is that?
He's kind of covered with smoke, or like because his cockpit was on fire or whatever. Yeah.
Well, I think it was all the dust that had been kicked. There's so much dust in this show. I love it. Anyway, so the very end of this episode, I'm like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? How did he get to be in Star Wars as an X-Wing pilot for the New Republic? Much in the same way as Appa, right?
Yeah.
How did he get to be in Star Wars? Okay. It's going to blow your mind.
Paul Sung-Hung,
No. Yeah. But this guy, this guy is Andy Powers. That is his name.
Okay.
I'm like, where did you come from, Andy Powers? Turns out he was the lead actor, Kent, in this movie called Clown from 2014. I'd never heard of it. It's about a clown suit that a guy puts on and he's not able to take off, and it does terrible things to him. It was actually a short.
Like a horror movie kind of thing, yeah?
It was based on a short that was turned into a live full feature movie. Written and directed by
John Watts?
And Christopher Ford.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So that's where he's from.
Interesting.
They brought him back to be the X-Wing pilot.
Because those are the showrunners for this show, yeah.
The writers for this show, right?
Yeah.
So anyway.
but back to like...
back to John Watts.
But back to John Watts. So he's very good at capturing like the feelings of being a kid. So like for Spider-Man, he captured that perfect moment for being a kid, and he just like went lower, like younger with these kids, and they're kids. They're genuine kids. They feel like children, and that's great. And there's a genuine authenticity to the experience that we experience joy through their eyes. And casting like the same age as they are was very good in that. I also am a huge fan of David Lowery, who has done one of my favorite movies of all time, even though it's very weird and very psychological, The Green Knight.
Yes.
So this episode was, of course, directed by him, and it doesn't feel like The Green Knight, but it does feel expertly constructed from a director perspective. So
absolutely. I completely agree with that.
I don't know. I'm in love with this show.
You talk about The Green Knight, but he has a more direct connection to kids' films and kids' perspectives as well, having been the director of Pete's Dragon.
Yeah. Yeah. Which you like.
Yeah, I mean, Pete's Dragon's an important production to me. Also, really weirdly, okay, because of IMDb and wandering around, he also did a short movie that came out, like a little cinematic and animated thing that's called An Almost Christmas Story that just came out. David Lowery, it's just come out. And I have a picture on my phone of the cover of that I want to show you because it's kind of creepy in its own way. Here is the cover for An Almost Christmas Story.
So it's like, probably stop motion animation, and then there's an owl on it?
Yes, there's...
What?
Like, it's so close to Kim. A little stop motion movie about a little owl helping a little girl. The owl's name is Moon and the girl's name is Luna, and it's a delight. Like, I'm looking for it to watch.
And this owl was on a moon?
No, the owl's name is Moon.
No, I know, but like...
You're right. I know. And it just came out, directed by and produced by David Lowery. So there you go.
Great.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, like, this show just it captures the energy and the feelings of being this age, but yet it's interesting enough because we're invested in not only, hey, can these kids actually make it home safely, but we're also invested in like the mystery and like the things that we don't know about the Star Wars universe. There's things that we don't know about the Star Wars universe. The things that everybody knows. Everybody knows everything about the Star Wars universe. We don't know these things. That's interesting. That was such a smart choice.
I love that so much. The hidden planet, the hidden treasure on the hidden planet. And even the kids are starting to wonder, is there a treasure?
Is there a treasure? Maybe it's the great work. Yeah, we'll get to that. And also there's like what is Captain Jack? What is
Captain Crimson Jack Silvo all about?
Yeah, or Jod is his
Jod Norwood.
Norwood. Yeah, like interesting. There's things that we're discovering, and that always makes it that much more interesting to us because it's not necessarily related to the plot. It's all character.
Yeah.
Right? And the kids themselves are, of course, child archetypes, right? They're going into their world, but they're actually adventuring into sort of what would be classified as early archetypical life archetypes, which is maiden, etc. Yeah. So it's fun. I'm loving it. Are you ready to dig into the episode, or is there anything you want to pre-say?
Ooh, is there anything else that off the top doesn't fit into the structure of the story? Yeah, I will. I'm going to throw it out there. I think this was 2 episodes that were jammed into one.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I really do. Because, and that at one point I had you pause the episode, and it's when they escape from the prisons, from the prisoner, from the smuggler's lagoon sort of thing, right? When they escape from that, we're at 14 and a half minutes. There is 24 and a half minutes or thereabout left in the episode. So if you had just built up the escape by another 6 minutes or so, you would have had a 20-ish minute episode and a 24-ish minute episode. And that is about the length of your predecessor 22-minute sitcom, right? You could have built it up even more.
Or maybe the escape was originally part of the second episode, but they decided to leave it on the mystery of who is this person who has pulled the key with presumably the Force.
Well, I mean, that is the proper end for that first episode, right?
Absolutely.
This next episode, it's truncated. It's 2 separate stories. There's 2 separate things going on in this episode.
It did feel a little like there's, exactly.
And it is jarring.
A little bit, yeah.
As a result.
I don't know. It still worked for me.
Oh, it absolutely still does, because under the context of the whole arc, right? It's a whole ongoing show. But if you were releasing them as a twofer, this is 2 different episodes.
Yeah. So functionally, from like an adventurer's journey, hero's journey perspective, this is the standard road of trials, right? They were stuck in the belly of the whale in the underworld or in the other world as prisoners. And then they have gathered Jod, or Crimson Jack or Captain Jack as an ally to them in addition to SM-33.
Yeah.
And so this is them going and doing sort of tasks and trials to learn more about themselves. And actually, it's really interesting because I'm not going to say simplistic, but in the easy way the story adapts to children,
Yeah.
It shows us very clearly their gain of skills and confidence and their own power within the story. And I think that's great. It's doing exactly what I would want out of my Mythopoeia, even though it is like a classic 80s kid-based adventure story.
Yeah, each kid is going to need to figure out their place within the group.
Yeah.
Not just themselves as an individual going forward to becoming a fully realized complete human, but how do they all work together as a team? Because they haven't really gotten to do that yet.
Yeah, they are an ensemble. There was a comment on our last episode on YouTube where they said, just before I start this, I want to let you know that I think that Fern is the best lead, not Wim. And I'm like, they're all the leads. It's an ensemble. After the first,
maybe they just meant leader.
I mean, Fern is of course a better leader. Wim is distracted by green buttons. But I think that's part of his journey too, right? Like they all have their own characters, and if anyone who's ever played D&D knows that there's the easily distractible halfling rogue that will push the green button.
You don't get in any trouble if you don't push the button.
Yeah, and that's fun.
Yeah. But you also don't get in any trouble unless everybody else tells you not to push the button.
Yeah.
And then you push the button.
Yeah.
I think Wim's learning will happen at the end of the series or the end of the season, whichever that is, where he learns, okay, I should not push that button because of the risk and the dangers that are inherent with that. That's what you learn from these pushing of the buttons.
Well, and fundamentally, like, you know, I talk a lot about Cam Wayland, and she has a different set of books that she talks about character development, and that each character has a truth and a lie, a lie they believe to be true, and a truth that they have to discover. And the truth is actually sort of
not discover, but that is revealed,
or that they discover along the way.
Yeah.
And the truth is actually their own personal elixir on their journey.
Yeah.
It is the thing that they find that is the treasure.
Yep.
And we talk a lot about treasures in this episode, which is really cool.
We're going to be talking about treasure throughout.
Oh, I know, because pirates.
Yeah.
Yeah, but...
And we all know the adage of like the true treasure is the friendships made along the way, and that is going to be the case.
Exactly, yeah. But, you know, we have a lot of lies that people believe to be true about themselves in this, and I kind of want to discuss that through the episode.
Absolutely. I want to also make sure we look at it through the perspective of Jodnon. We can almost never say this name, Jodnon or Wood. If I want to look at it from that perspective as well, because in as much as the kids are the focus and the kids are the central through line, he has a story as well.
Oh yeah.
And SM-33 will have a story as well.
Yeah.
These guides that they've picked up definitely have...
Even Kim is going to come back, like, right? Because they've opened the door from a Chekhov's gun perspective for us. Yeah.
Call me and I'll be there.
Yeah.
I honestly think that these two gentlemen that are guiding them, they have truths. They have lies they believe to be true inherently as part of their code or as part of their coding already. Yeah. And I think that's going to be uncovered as well, because I think that is also what's going to appeal to every adult that's watching this show.
Yeah, because they need my two dads are driving the ship with these kids.
Right? We need to see the bandit that is in the core, in the kernel of Captain Silvo or Crimson Jack. We need to see that.
Yeah.
And to make a Bluey reference.
Well, and also I think that like he's definitely has opportunity to do something bad and then redeem himself from that. That's definitely in the cards for him, as well as I think that the lie that SM33 believes to be true is that he doesn't know what At-Aten is. I think he knows why he was on that planet, but he doesn't know that was At-Aten.
Yeah.
Like there's something there because he keeps on repeating, I don't know what At-Aten is, but every pirate knows what At-Aten is.
Exactly. I also think I think that he doesn't need a captain.
No.
And that is integral to his core, that he serves a captain and has not been told that he can be the captain.
Oh yeah, that would be a cool, like, the genie is freed.
Yes.
Sort of moment.
Yeah.
And actually the rat is the captain. I love that there is a space rat. I'm obsessed with this rat. He needs a name. I think I speculated last episode that the rat was actually in charge, but he's just a rat.
I think the rat's name is Left Eye.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great. I love SM33. He's quickly becoming up there in my top 20 droids.
Wow.
I know. I love all droids too.
Yeah, I know. You like the fact that he cracked the top 20 already.
Yeah, like he could get into the top 10. He's like, I love him.
But probably not top 5.
No, I feel like L3, C3PO, R2D2, Chopper. I have to think about whether I like a different droid more.
Yeah, BB-8.
BB-8, yeah.
And
there you go. I got like 5 already.
That's already 5 that you like more than SM33.
Yeah, probably.
But BB-8's close.
I forgot about BB-8 for a quick second.
And then there's also dear old Red Boy from Andor.
Yeah, and there's K2SO. And,
right.
I don't know. And then there's Pip from Acolyte. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. He could get into the top 10. That would be hard, though. We'd have to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is not going to crack my top 5 because I only like him peripherally. I'm not super invested in SM33. Yeah, that's true. I'm sorry. Yeah, do not light your blowtorch, SM33, please. He just isn't. But that's because my favorite droids are like C3PO and BD. So
okay, yeah, BD's up there too. Yeah,
he doesn't kind of fit that favorite droid quality for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I love droids.
I love the fact that he's got one actual leg and he has a peg leg. Like, yeah, we really got like actual emphasis on the peg leg.
And
this
he
time.
kind of limps like he's got the peg leg. And he shrunk down and he raised up and he did all sorts of cool things with.
There was a lot of status play from SM33, which you're going to need to get from the servant who is also the master, right? Like you need to get status play from him, and that'll be a lack of movement, and that'll be certain head nods, the fact that he never blinks and his eyes constantly on like on at all times, and then when he raises his standing up to stand above and taller than Jude Law, that of course is his status being put to the test to say, I'm not the one who does your bidding.
Never doubt that puppeteers and people that do like the sort of action for these characters or even animators who are animating aren't actors themselves.
Absolutely.
Right. Do you want to get into the episode or do you have any other thoughts before we get in?
I just had one other thought, and that was I was looking at the cast list for the show, and the Robert Timothy Smith who plays Neil is not the same as the person in the suit. No,
they had an actor for the suit. So Neil himself, there was something that came out on Blue Sky, a giant thread, which was really cool. And I forget who posted it, but he was going into all the things that went into Neil. So Neil was acted from inside of the suit.
By Casey Barrowman.
And then there was a puppeteer for his mouth. For his facial features.
Yeah.
And then there was the voice, which was done by, I forget, the young man's name. And then...
Robert Timothy Smith.
And then there was actually CGI animation to make his mouth movements more natural in the space. And it's like, it is a team effort to make Neil as cool as he is.
Is there CGI to make his eyes look like they're reflecting back the galaxy? because he constantly looks like he has stars in his eyes, which of course is inherently the character, right? He has stars in his eyes.
I am sure he is touched up, like, just tweaked and stuff like that, just to make him feel more like lived in and who he is. Yeah, because I mean, it's seamless to me. They have done such a good job of like combining together all of these artistic talents.
I fully agree with that. Yeah. And then like, I can't help but wonder, like, why doesn't the girl that he's in love with love him back? Like, who couldn't help but love this, starry-eyed guy?
Because she sits ahead of him and she doesn't get to see him. She's in the first row and he's a couple of rows back, and he gets to look at her, and it is an unrequited love because she doesn't actually get to see him. Yeah.
Well, we're not alone. Everyone on the internet loves Neil.
Yeah.
There's now the Neil fan base. But I will put it out there that KB is probably... Is it KB?
KB.
Yeah, KB is 100% my favorite.
Yeah.
Especially in this episode.
KB got a lot more play than the first two.
Yeah, and also the interplay between Fern and KB is more complicated than we think it is, because Fern just takes KB's vote at one point in this episode, and KB's like, okay, fine, you can have it. I don't think it's going to matter, but just so you know, I probably wouldn't have voted with you, sort of tone. Like, her response was very much like, I didn't quite agree with that. You're the boss. That's still going on, but like, don't always presume my vote.
Yeah.
So let's kick it off.
So we actually don't start with the kids.
No.
Which was cool. I like this. We go back to Atten and we actually see like the city, and then we go and like we wander up the suburban street.
Yep.
To, I think they're in Wim's house.
They are in Fern's house.
Oh, they're in Fern's house.
Yes, they're in Fern's house.
And there we have the administrator mom.
Yep.
Who is like, oh, the security droids will find them, and the moms of KB are freaking out, and
yes, who, if you look at IMDb, like, because that's where I've lived this evening, it's Mary and Gary.
Mary and Gary, I love their names, and then we have, of course, Neil's mom, who's like comforting Wendell, who's like at a loss. He like, they did such a good thing with the sound design where you don't really hear the conversations in the room because he's like so distracted with his own thought.
Because the camera pulls in on the back of his head, telling us we're looking at things from his perspective.
Yeah, because he saw them disappear.
He's the one who saw them disappear. He's the one who's had change wrought upon him, right?
Yeah.
He has seen something that can't be unseen, right? It has changed his perspective on life.
The world is a lot bigger than you think it is.
Exactly. Yeah. And the camera constantly returns to him, not really paying much attention to what's going on. And a lot of what's happening in this, you're going to need to read the subtitles for, because there's a lot of overlapping conversation happening that the subtitles are interplaying for you that you will miss. Because again, we're caught up in Wendell's perspective, right? We're caught up in his perspective, and that means that he's not really listening to what's going on around him. He's internally conflicted. He's trying to work through not only the loss of his son after the loss of his wife, who we don't know where she is. Did she cross the barrier, or is she just passed away? Did she cross the Great Barrier? That's what is giving me pause. And then, of course, this scene ends with him taking his glasses off.
I wanted to ask you about his glasses.
Yeah.
Have we ever seen glasses in Star Wars before?
Oh, we have seen things like people have flipped over their eyes, like controls for nav computers and whatnot, and like Luke Skywalker flips the visor up and turns off his, or Anakin assistance. When he was a
little kid, he had his like little flight goggles on. But have we seen glasses like this?
I don't. These are like old 80s style glasses, right? It's definitely hearkening to that time.
It fits in, but it's still like, when he took them off was the first time I was like, wait a second, have we actually ever seen characters with glasses before?
I feel like the answer to that is yes. If not in Andor or Mandalorian, we have seen characters who have worn
or maybe
glasses.
In the original trilogy at some point, like.
but they would have been secondary characters.
Yeah.
They would have been characters in the background or set against the backdrop.
It seemed odd to me.
Yes. Not only, I think mostly as well because of the style of glasses being so specifically 80s in their rim shape.
Yeah. KB's mom's actually talk about her life monitor, and then later on in the scene, one of her moms says she has a health condition, like in worry, right? Because obviously the technology that is associated with her visor and like her implants and stuff like that is also part of her monitoring activities for her health.
Yeah. Sorry, while you were telling us this very interesting thing that you'd already told me once before, I was looking it up, and Dr. Pershing from The Mandalorian wears glasses.
Oh,
he's one of the first to do it. Before that, it was Maz Kanata who wore glasses.
Those were kind of goggles.
But they definitely, and they were definitely,
fine, yeah.
But they made her eyes bigger than they were.
Yeah.
Maz and Hondo wears glasses at one point too.
Okay.
But beyond that,
rare.
Not like humans wearing glasses is nobody.
Yeah.
Dr. Pershing was the first to kind of have that aesthetic.
I mean, kudos to the lens crafters of the Star Wars galaxy.
Yep.
You've broken into a blue ocean.
Yeah, there's also this picture of a guy who I don't know, so I'm going to show him to you because I think you will know him, and that way we can. Now he is an old man with a big bushy beard and a weird black floppy hat, carrying a big stick with some sort of thing carved into the top of it. He's wearing a white outfit with a yellow undercut and a belt pouch. And you can tell me who this is.
Oh, he's from the Ewoks movies.
Do you remember his name?
I do not remember his
I
name.
thought you were like the goddess of Star Wars.
It's been a while since I've watched the Ewoks movies. I'm sorry to say.
That's okay.
What's his name?
I don't know. It just says spectacles in Wikipedia, so I didn't know the character at all. In fact, the character, the actual posting is just on spectacles. Celia Crimson Dorasha and Kaj Nedmak. Doesn't really help me there. I don't know who that is. So it's nice seeing the parents be concerned.
Yeah.
And I would like to see, and I hope that we get to see more of that as we go along, and that there's more push for them to see the supervisor, and there is more push for the parents to constantly try to attempt to save the kids, because that is a massive trope from these 80s movies, right? There's a lot of movies where, Kevin's mom is rushing back from vacation
from Paris
to rescue Kevin, right?
Yeah, but Kevin ends up rescuing himself, right? Yeah, with the help of his adult neighbor.
Yes, but mom still would have been there in the end, right? Like they are still there. They're still doing everything they possibly can to rescue their children and to save the day, to show that they care. So
we have the security droid show up, and he says, the supervisor says, I've consulted with the supervisor. They've moved past the barrier in a starship, and this is a crazy reveal for the families,
right?
And they're like, but the supervisor is going to go after them or contact the Republic, and they're like, oh no. Like, I love that response. Like, no, your children, they're gone.
They're gone.
Yeah,
they have broken the rule.
We cannot put the great work at risk.
Is the supervisor a droid or not a droid?
I'm getting the feeling that if the supervisor's been around for like a really long time, then it's like some sort of computer or droid. Yeah,
I'm definitely thinking droid, not sentient, like non-bind, like an organic life form. I mean like
something that can live that long and has security droids to keep everybody in line.
Yeah, there are long-lived sentient species, so it is possible.
I get the impression that it's like the rules are so maintained in this very like strict manner that like it kind of feels like a Star Trek episode in that way.
Or Metropolis.
Yeah. I mean, Metropolis didn't really have a droid, but
I have a machine.
No, it had the machine and mensch, but it that was a creation of the mad scientist trying to reproduce his dead wife or his friend's dead wife.
Yeah.
Long stories, but like the machines at the central of the city were not bad, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it could be similar vibes.
Yeah.
Similar vibes. I do have a question for later on in the episode about what we think the great work is, but
we're not there yet.
Nope.
Because we're only fleeing the prison.
Yes. I love the sort of zoom, like the establishing shot of the port and how the shields that keep obviously the air in looked like waves.
Yes.
That was such a beautiful touch.
Yep.
I want to hug the person that came up with that.
The same way as the red dots establish the backdrop for the barrier of this is the border of what is
they
known.
were kind of like stars, but not like, yeah.
And then we go the blue waves. This is the border of where they need to trespass. They need to get past this border again.
And they're sneaking out, and Jod introduces himself.
But before that, Puppet gets shocked, and I giggled with glee and delight. Because that was assuredly a puppet. Like, it was a right out of Henson's cast of characters. And I've just seen a whole bunch of puppet shows with Eric and a couple of others. And that was absolutely no CG here. This was a puppet getting shocked.
Yep. And he uses the Force as much as the kids can tell, because he's like, oh, come back here. Like, obviously people are coming.
Yep.
And they ask him, like, why didn't you escape? You could have totally escaped. And he's like, well, I didn't have a ship.
Yeah.
Fair. And, I waited around and the Force provided.
Yep.
I love that line so much.
It was such a quick and easy answer, because we're all like asking that question too.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't he escape? Well, I didn't have a ship. Oh, right. You're in a spaceport. You're in the Pirates Lagoon. You don't have a boat. What, are you going to swim?
No, like he's literally stuck there. And as soon as he sneaks out, they're going to catch him and maybe kill him this time.
Exactly.
Yep. And so they sneak out. KB has a cool moment where she notices the droid that's going on. And Fern's like, oh, maybe KB has the Force too. And the Force flows through us all. It's like...
It's so cheesy.
I love him.
He's got the gun up and he's just all like, he's
so early calls. Do you think he actually has the Force? He's Force sensitive, or he's...
Well, we're given this. There's a ray shield that they walk up to while they're having this entire conversation. So everything is bathed in a blue light. Then he fiddles with the ray shield and everything is bathed in a red light. And then the ray shield is taken down. The Force moves through us all. He's bathed in no light.
Right.
So I do think he is Force sensitive.
Yeah. Like you think he's got some tricks or something.
I think he can do a few things.
Yeah.
Because unless KB is right and it was string, I don't see how he moved the key.
Or how he turned off the lights later.
Well, there is a click and then the lights go off. So... He could be flicking coins, like they can do that when they snap their finger in a coin, they fire coins across the room. He could be that kind of guy.
Yeah.
But I get the feeling that he is more than he seems.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of hope he does have the Force, because it's like, I don't know, there's something about just like not lying to the audience.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know that this is the story that's going to be like, ha, we pulled the wool over your eyes.
Right.
It's like, no, the reveal is either what he went through as a young person to have, like, it's 5-6 years past the fall of the Empire. That means it's 30 some years past, the fall of the Republic. So I don't know. He's in his 30s, 40s. He could have been a youngling. Or just never had an opportunity to train, right? Like, I don't know.
Yes.
How old is Jude Law? He looks great.
I think he's in his 50s now.
Oh, God. Okay.
But either way, I think that's the revelation that we're getting. So, So blue, red, it doesn't matter.
Blue, red.
The Force moves through us all.
Exactly. No, that's great. I love it. I love that commentary. So they sneak into the crowd. He gives them the option, like, empty hallway, a whole bunch of people. We'll just sneak through the people. I love that because it's busy. Everybody's drinking.
It's something to watch.
Yeah.
And also Neil gets distracted.
Yeah.
And dad goes back. He's been counting the kids all along, goes back and gets Neil.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite obvious he doesn't need all 4 of these kids.
No.
And
but
yet he...
Yeah, it's like he's like a mother duck in a way. He's like, oh, where's the lost duck?
He goes back for people 3 times over the course of this episode.
Yeah.
So they're not... 3 times is significant.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bet he goes back for more. Like he's going... Like this is going to be a running thing that he is going to be going back for people on the regular. He's constantly going to be shepherding these 4 kids as they go through this story.
This just plays into like this idea of like dads want to be nurturers and they want to care.
Yeah.
But they need like it to be adventurous to do it. It's my whole like theory about the Mandalorian and Grogu and like the masculine nurturing fantasy. Like they want it to be a heroic deed to nurture young.
Right.
And it's like a heroic deed. You're bringing these ducklings home.
Yeah.
Like
but at the same point, it gets to it too. Well, since we're still on the Captain Jack is a nurturer position, he feeds them and ensures they goes to makes sure they all go to bed. And
make sure they go to bed. Like he cares. He is legitimately nurturing these kids.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not tired. Fern's asleep the next moment.
This is absolutely
all over the place.
Adventures in Babysitting.
Oh yeah,
100%.
Oh yeah,
and I
love that movie so much.
Somebody has to have something get left behind that he has to go back and get because it's important to them.
Yeah,
like that's something that's going to have to happen. Whether or not it's Thor's hammer or whatever, we don't know.
Well, we'd had this episode too with SM33. Yeah.
Yes.
And he's like, fine. But they sneak on to the ferry boat and they get onto the ship and Neil's like, it smells funny. It's a great scene where, just to your point, Thor's hammer.
Yeah.
But a Jedi, I thought a Jedi never left a man behind.
Not a man, he's a droid. There's a difference.
It's not a thing that Jedi say. But he does it anyways, even though he doesn't like droids. Yep. And he obviously does not want to put himself back into danger in this situation.
Which he does.
He goes back and he goes and finds the droid holding area, which seems like like Jabba's palace had one. So yeah, why not?
Absolutely. One of the best scenes in the show yet. One of the best scenes in modern Star Wars.
I love it so much.
The prince is in danger. Like every droid he turns on
has a story. I'm like, I want to follow that droid who's like, the prince is in danger. It reminded me of C-3PO. The princess is in danger.
It was supposed to be.
I know. I was like,
I can't see.
But I want to know what if this. I want fairy tale in Star Wars. So anytime they're like, the prince is in danger, I'm like, a lost prince? Tell me that story, Star Wars, please. Right. And then we get the BD-1 battle droid. It's like, did we win?
Did we win? Did we win the war?
Did we win the war? Like, great, Matt Wood. Perfect. You deliver those lines like it was yesterday.
Yes.
And it's been like 25 years.
Oh my God, it was so good. And then we get Benjar Pranik, you old blood, which I love as like you old scoundrel sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I told you, I knew like, who that voice was.
I feel like I saw this week, so I'm probably going to be like, oh yeah.
All right, are we ready to say that?
Okay, who is it?
It's Alfred Molino.
I saw this week. No, I did. And it was mainly because, somebody was like thirsting over the picture of Alfred Molino that they said they posted with the character because he's looking good.
Yeah, he's great. Doing lots of wonderful stuff right now.
Yeah.
But now I want more of Benjar Pranik.
Yeah.
I need more of him. And I mean, we've got Gunther and we've got Captain Brutus and we've got Benjar Pranik. We literally have the
SM33 and
well, we have the Pirates crew.
Yeah, they're gonna come back.
And each of them have a part to play, and each of them kind of fit the motif of the people that we're watching, right? And so I want to see these guys come back into the story as well, because in many ways they are our little pirates in big pirate form, right? Brutus is Fern, and we've got Gunter with the eye guard is KB, and then we've got Captain Jack himself as Wim, right?
You're telling me that these are the shadows of our young adventurers?
That would I don't necessarily think that we're getting that, but I think...
No, I think there's going to be a confrontation where they all have to fight their shadow version. And they have to use all the skills that they have used and all of their allies to fight their shadow version.
Yeah, as they're being chased, which is very Goonies as well. So I think that's what we're looking at. And then maybe perhaps Benjar Pranik and Smee or SM33 are kind of their correlations as well.
Well, so, maybe,
That's where I'm at, folks. That's my amazing 2 cents that I came up with from this episode.
The kids, while he's off rescuing their droid, are fighting around whether they should leave him or whether he's actually a Jedi. And this is where they had the whole string conversation, which I thought was super cute. Because it's like, I've heard kids have conversations like this.
Yeah.
Although, it's more influenced by YouTube theories now.
It's true.
Than I would like, yeah. They have a dangerous escape where, of course, he's like coming in hot in his little ferry shuttle, and they, try to escape, and it's kind of like the fuel line is like the anchor, and it behaves that way in this space, and
we're still tied to the dock, Captain.
We're still, and they're like trying to take off, and it's like, this is a well-made fuel line.
Yeah.
So good. Well-made. Cut the anchor, and so again, we get this like pirate nautical experience in a galaxy far, far away, and I continuously gush about this.
Yeah. Dragging all the ships around until they all crash together. None of them can chase after him because he's kind of ruined all the other ships.
Yeah, and also like when they go to hyperspace and it whips back, like I felt that. Like
the first time we watched it, I really felt the shock of it. It felt very violent
and visceral, and like it wrecked stuff, and when
people
wild. Like I liked that scene and that moment, and it was very well done to get you into the adventure moment. Like,
the only thing missing was a Wilhelm scream.
Oh, like somebody falling off of a thing.
Well, it whips back and the guy gets flung. That was missing from that. But literally, we get Brutus's perspective from behind as the big canister falls in front of him and everything crashes around him, and you can see the hackles raised in the anger of this.
And he's like, "Some bounty hunters, I want to see them kneel at my feet, and those pups too. You and your little dog too."
He is the dog. I can't wait for him to square off against Fern.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're both going to be holding swards. And it could be the sword that
Captain Jack has
taken from
the little mini cutlass.
Yeah.
Would be perfect for Fern. I think he gifts it to her. Oh my God. I'm having dreams already. Do you find it cute that Neil and Wim and all of them call him Sir?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, that feels so like 1980s core, and also just not something that we hear in Star Wars that often, except for from C-3PO.
Yeah, well, we don't see a lot of kids in Star Wars, and I think that's part of it. I think Anakin called people Sir.
Yeah, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Sir.
Yeah.
Sir! Qui-Gon Sir! Yeah. Oh, interesting.
And so we're getting a lot of that because also they naturally are predisposed to consider him to be a Jedi and therefore a trusted authority.
A Sir.
But they're also well-raised kids who've done a lot of schooling, mostly in math.
Math analysis. Yeah. We again get that beautiful scene where he's nurturing the kids in that he eats his food, feeds himself first, applies his he's
not a mom. He's not waiting for it to be cold to eat.
And then tells the droid to clean up the thing, and is like, there's more in the pot, and there was like a lot more, like enough
there was lots of food. Absolutely.
Feed hungry kids. And it was one of the things that I was super happy about, was like, oh, we get to see them eat, and then go to sleep.
which was just really lovely. We get all of this interplay with the kids, with each other, with Captain Jack, and I loved it most when he turns the lights out using the Force. And he gets the last most reluctant child, who has been the most disbelieving of him yet, in her own way, to finally close her eyes and go to sleep as well.
Magical from a dad perspective.
Just from any parent's perspective, to get their child to go to sleep is such a struggle. And he does it like it's a Jedi mind trick. And we arrive.
Oh, we did have the moment with the confrontation with SM-33.
Yes. Prior to putting all the kids to sleep.
Yeah. Where he's like, oh, are they really from Atten? And he's like, I'll tell you something. They're definitely from somewhere. It's like, okay. But that
this droid is quickly hitting your top 5.
He's so great. But, like I love this like instant protector of small children, and that they're both like, they both seem to care about the kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
He just thumps him in the chest so hard too. Like Jude Law's reaction to that, and then looking into his shirt to see if he's bruised, is just, am I bruised?
And the rat is fed and everything like that. Oh my gosh. Did you want to talk about what the great work is, maybe, or that the treasure at home?
It's treasure, so it's never going to matter. It's like the glowing briefcase, right? It's the MacGuffin that's leading us all the way there. I think it will only be it will only matter, and it will only be relevant if there is a second season of this show. Whatever the great work is, if it is in fact something, is the kernel of the plot of the second season. Fair.
But that would change the construct of the show significantly.
Exactly. So it won't really ever matter what it is.
Yeah.
It won't matter. The ship full of gold sailing off to the sunset at the end of Goonies, it won't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Because you'll have been there with your friends all along.
Well, the treasure that the kids will find will be something that would change the stagnation of their planet. It has to change their home, right? They bring back the treasure, which is what they've learned along the way.
Yeah.
And then whatever Jack finds by going into the planet, or Jod finds when he goes into the planet, which will happen probably not next episode. I think they're going to deal with more problems, but bounty hunters and such. But when he goes there, he's going to find something that's going to change him, and then, see transformation happen for him.
I think his transformation happened when he opened the vault and there was not within but a single credit.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Right. That all of his best laid plans and efforts to seek out treasure, to find the great big score and payday, resulted in not but his essentially his death. Mm-hmm. And it is his rebirth here with the kids that he realizes that it is much more important to get them home. And if there's a reward, that's great. Mm-hmm. And I felt genuine truth from that statement when he said it at the end. That I felt that he is genuine in his, I will bring you kids home. That this is my purpose, to get you back to where you belong. And I honestly think that there doesn't have to be something on the planet. They've already wrought change to the planet by leaving.
By treasure, I mean like the thing that he learns about himself is discovered. I think he's going to go through a trial by which he has to prove it. That's more that he has learned that there are things that are more valuable than gold, i.e. being a mentor to small children.
Yeah.
Seems to be more valuable to him than gold.
Caring about your crew.
Exactly. Which was something he never did.
Didn't seem to care about in the first episode.
So we arrive on this moon, which is really cool, and it's where his old friend lives, or an old contact acquaintance person. And we instantly hear theremin.
Yes. I literally wrote, this is very strange music for Star Wars.
And the thing that I've heard the most theremin in over the last couple of years has been the Loki series.
Yeah, that's true.
Which in Loki specifically, it really represented the hidden strings that were being pulled through the series behind like the organization that was the timekeepers and you know, like they were the hidden strings that were being pulled, right? Because the theremin is really interesting in that there is no physical instrument that you play. It does exist, but you play sort of the air and it tracks what you're doing, and it creates this very electronic, like whine sounds,
a resonant frequency.
Yeah, exactly.
To that end, it's also interesting, theremin was used predominantly in spooky sci-fi. So for Loki, because they were trying to evoke that with the Time Variance Authority, and they were trying to evoke a bit of those sorts of styles of sitcom, of television, especially in like the 50s to 70s. Star Wars has historically avoided any use of the theremin up until now, this particular production.
Yeah.
Because the very first Star Trek has a theremin in it.
Oh, interesting. And yeah, there was a little bit of that vibe in it. Yeah.
Yes. And so they did not want ever, like, especially after George, like he had a different vision for what Star Wars needed to be. It needed to be big and classical and orchestrated, which a theremin is not. It is its own unique standalone sort of instrument that you would build music around, but it doesn't support, it doesn't blend. And Star Trek was doing theremin in the introduction song and in the show, and as a result, they were very clear in not wanting to go anywhere near that sort of sound. Yeah, because there were so many people were constantly saying Star Wars, Star Trek, Star Wars, Star Trek. You didn't want the music to also hearken to any sort of commonality between them. They're very disparate, different things.
It did feel like classic sci-fi music. Yeah, it really did. And so they arrive on this moon and they have this classic, beautiful shot of them approaching the observatory.
Yeah. With the planet behind.
And it was very classic Goonies and E.T. and like...
Oh my God. Instead of Elliot and E.T. and all of the kids on the bikes flying across the sky with the moon behind them, we have a group of kids with their leader, their E.T., walking along a peak with the planet behind them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was great. And then we get this great moment where he knocks on the door. He's like, babe, she might stab us in the back. Stab us in the back? I mean, betray us. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's like, it's great. And then what do we hear? Well, she immediately sees that it's him and stabs him in the back.
Yes.
It immediately betrays. I'll try to delay. I'll try to, keep them here.
Yeah. But her betrayal is all with good intent, right?
Yeah.
We got to save these kids.
Those children. He kidnapped those children, which probably a lot of people would have thought, like, if they knew the Mandalorian, like,
right?
Din Djarin, like, did you kidnap that green frog? Like, is that your pet?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
There's no way a bounty hunter's walking around with a baby, like, legitimately for any reason other than the fact that he's on some sort of strange bounty. Like,
yeah, like, what's he doing with this, like, baby in his pouch?
Because you're not hiring the Mandalorian as a babysitter. You're not hiring Captain Jack or the Scarlet Silvo to do that.
Exactly. And so they come in and they explain their problem, that they're looking for at and we get backstory.
Absolutely.
Very interesting astrogational problem.
Exactly. That involves the jewels of the Old Republic and Palmerish symbols. And, like, these are great words that mean nothing.
Yeah.
And make you immediately want to know more. Like, my first Google searches are Palmerish symbols and jewels of the Old Republic as soon as I was done my deep foray into IMDb.
And John Watts talked about, like, use of the Old Republic in the show.
Yeah.
And he's like, most of the time we refer to the Old Republic the way Obi-Wan referred, Knights of the Old Republic.
Yep.
1,000 knights across, the one he remembers most of the time. That most is doing a lot of lifting because I'm like, how old is this culture on At-Aten that has been maintained, and what is she referring to? Because it doesn't, if people knew about these things even 400 years ago, it just doesn't feel like it would have been like lost to history, because that's when the like High Republic was.
Yeah.
It feels pre High Republic, and that makes my heart sing because I'm such a fan of the Knights of the Old Republic video games.
Yeah.
So I'm like the old
Republic.
The old Republic? Is it, are we going there? Like, is that, this is like, this feels like Atlantis. Yeah. You know?
Which it's supposed to, right? Mm. Like, it's supposed to hearken to that, because that is yet another, another story for kids.
Yeah, or El Dorado, like the lost city of gold. And so, like, the gold doubloons that are found, you know, sort of idea. I love it so much. So they talk about that most of the jewels of the galaxy, so these planets have been destroyed.
And they have X's over them.
Yeah, it's very, very cute.
All but one.
All but one, hidden and destroyed. And then, you know, they refer to that they know about Coruscant and Alderaan, but because of the great work, they had to stay within the barrier. Oh my God. Okay, so I still want to know what you think the great work is.
I mean, I honestly want it to be some sort of like knowledge or some sort of learning. Like they're solving fluid mechanics, you know, like they're solving one of the great theorems of the world, and that's what the great work is. I would prefer that. As a MacGuffin, I don't think it's necessary for it to be
everybody's
anything.
Like an analysis person or an accountant.
Yeah.
Like, they're all bean counters here. Yeah. They're all doing math.
No heroes, only mathematicians.
Only mathematicians. So they're doing some sort of like calculation thing.
Yeah. No blades, no bows, only calculators here.
Only calculators here. And, you know, maybe it's just like a new way to navigate hyperspace or something like that. I mean, I don't know.
Or it's spice. I don't know.
I don't think it's spice, but... They seem too straight-laced. But Kim, who I love the spelling of her name in the subtitles.
Absolutely.
It makes me so happy. Kim notices Fern's, top student badge, which actually somebody has translated and it says prefect. So in Arabic, which is great. And then she takes the symbols and does the calculation and is like, and we should have this done in
a few months.
Like, it's gonna take a while. And John's like, and Kim starts to stall, but the cops show up. And just as a reminder,
but it's not just that the cops show up. Jod sees through it. He turns the dial and that is very much a sense-oriented Jedi move. Like, if you have the Force, he sees through the deception and sees through what's being done to turn the knob and immediately tune in on what's happening.
But as we've seen in the Mandalorian cinematic universe, X-Wing fighters, pilots have become the cops of the Republic.
Yeah, they're just missing the red and blue flashing lights.
Yeah, like literally, I gotta pull you over. What are you doing here? It's like so ridiculous. Those poor X-Wing fighters are like cops now.
Yes, they really are. They travel in pairs.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so they head out, but KB stays behind momentarily and has this great moment with Kim, which of course establishes her as a contact / ally.
Yep.
Where she gives her the advice of like, oh, you know, he probably said use your gut, but also use your head. Find out the truth from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And call me and I will be there.
Yeah.
Because she is a good person.
She's a good person.
And I was actually genuinely sad when all the books fell on her. I was like, no, her brittle, hollow bones. She can fly.
But I loved her design. I loved how she kind of looked cat owl-like, and she had like little fingers on the
in the joint of her wings.
Joint of her wings, and she could fly, and she had like a little cloak too, which was great. Like, I love her. And so, like, of course, owls are protectors of secret knowledge. They're very intelligent. They're also like messengers, so that she delivers a message to the children in that there is a way home.
If you don't know the answer to your plight, you have to go and speak to Owl in the 100-acre wood.
Yes.
Like, this is just that.
It's just that, yeah. And also, they're protectors too, which is
well, they're guardians.
Guardians too,
of
yeah.
Gahul.
Gahul. Yeah. No.
Also, if you like this character, Marie Claire, you really should listen to my Humblewood Chronicle in Tavern Tales Jr.
Is there an owl?
All of the kids play birds.
Yes,
they are
true.
all this type of character folk, and the whole place is riddled with birds.
That's great.
Little talking birds with little hands, moving about, having adventures. I was like, Kim needs to have an appearance in my game.
In your game, yeah. And so they confront him as they head back to the ship to try and get the truth out of him. And we have this touching moment where Jod says,
well, before that, he goes back and gets KB.
No. He goes and helps again. Yeah. Again, so like that's 3 times because Neil, SM33 and KB. Yeah. He's like just gathering the ducks. He's doing a good job as a dad duck. But they force it out of him. Like, what do you really want? You're kind of a person we're not supposed to trust.
Exactly.
And we do actually get, I think, a moment of truth from him that he is alone. He doesn't have anybody and he's lost.
Yeah. I'm just like you.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that he doesn't answer their question. He tells them his need.
Yeah.
He doesn't answer. He's like, your question's irrelevant. This is my need. I'm just like you. I'm lost. I don't have a purpose. I'm alone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want those things for myself.
Yeah. And it very much feels like the basis of much of like what we see in Din Djarin's story and what we've seen in many other stories that focus on this like sort of masculine need to protect others. Is that they have a lack of purpose that they are satisfied with. And so when they actually connect with community, with family, with creating, protecting others, using their strength to protect others, it comes to a place where they are much more satisfied with life.
Absolutely. And I loved when he says, we'll make it a partnership. I was genuinely like it was so well written because I could see them saying yes to that. And KB's like, no. You are not partners. We're in charge. You work for us.
Yeah.
That meant something to me. I was like, right. The kids are in charge.
As it should be in Star Wars. And at least this Star Wars. Yeah.
It's just like why Bluey hits as hard as it does. Because every time there's an imaginative game, the parents just they just do it. They just join the imaginative game. So when the kid says, no, it has to be this, it is that. When the kid says that thing is heavy, everyone in the entire world all adheres to that rule because the kid has said so. Because the kids don't have any powers in the real world. They only have power in the imaginative world. So when the kid said, no, we're in charge, and he agreed to that, well, we know who's really going to be in charge because he's going to have to keep an eye on them and protect them and constantly shepherd them back into place. But that's going to make us feel even more for him because he said yes.
He said yes. Yeah.
We're going to play this imaginative game where you get to tell me what to do, but I'm going to lead you by the hand and you're going to be the pilot and you're going to be the navigator and you two are going to be the gunners, which is great because you're already fighting. And now you're going to have this competition between the two of you as to whose laser shot hit what starport.
Yep.
So.
And we get that moment where it totally reminded me of us getting put into the Smuggler's Run ride in the Falcon.
Right.
And it's like, and the little kid is driving? What?
Yeah. And the youngest is the pilot. You two old people, gunners, right? Like
engineers. Yeah.
The starry-eyed kid with stars in his eyes is the one that has to fly the ship. He has to look out upon the exact same thing that his eyes are full of and find and steer the way.
Yep. And this is like the start of them finding like their skills and their confidence and their own power. Like Neil manages to do it and KB manages to get the coordinates out and the gunners manage to gun, and Jod keeps the ship from falling apart. It's and yeah, SM33 is like the cranky old engineer in the back. It's so good. I'm so happy. I'm unbelievably happy with this show. It makes me really happy.
Well, we've seen it twice now. And honestly, I could see it again. I think I wait a little bit before I watch it again. But what I'm more interested in, that I haven't been interested in a while, is hearing what Will thinks of this show.
Yeah.
Because he's watched the first episode, and all I want to do is talk to him about these characters and find out which one is his favorite, and find out what he thinks is going to happen next, and what he wants to happen next, and what does he think about all of this struggle and the breaking through the barrier, and where these kids are going, and what does this adventure mean to him? In the same way that I wanted to ask these questions of Robin when you were watching The Acolyte with them. Because they're of an age where that show would have spoken to them implicitly, where the concept of identity split between these two women who are twins, but not, who are the same person, but not, means a lot to a kid who's trying to figure out their own identity.
Yeah. And I told Will that he can come on and record with us anytime he wants to, as long as he's caught up to the episodes. And
oh, that's great.
So
I can't wait to have him come on and be like, here's Will's thoughts.
He has good thoughts.
Oh, yes. Oh, I know. And you would know, too, if you decided to listen to Tavern Tales Jr. Humblewood Adventures.
No, but on What the Fiction, when we watch like Marvel movies.
Agreed.
Yeah, he's always very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's perfect because he's like the right age. He's 13 now. And so he feels the kids, I think, after the first episode.
Yeah. No, this show is my jam, because all I want to do is run Dungeons and Dragons for my kids and other kids and whatnot, because the decisions that they make are never the ones you think they're going to make. And I think that that's what's great about these kids, is they're constantly getting captured and enraptured by something that you didn't even think of, or they're setting their food on fire and throwing it at the bartender. Right.
Yeah.
Which is not something that happens in my game. It happened in the show.
I know. I want to see more of that. I'm a little worried that like Jod will like overshadow them a little bit by keeping them in line. I still want the chaos that kids inevitably bring to
yeah,
a
they
story.
definitely have been downplayed to spectators for a lot of this episode, but it was an introduction of this character, and it was an introduction to Kim. So once we've got that out of the way, I think the kids will be allowed to shine in going forward, especially when we reach Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah, and the conflict with the pirates will probably be one of those major moments, because Jod can't do everything. He's got to trust his young proteges.
Yep.
Well, that wraps up episode 3, unless you have final thoughts before we finish up.
I'm interested in knowing how quickly they're going to get back. Is the next episode the arrival at the Great Barrier?
No.
Or will there be some other blockage that has stopped them, that will cause them some sort of,
I mean, they're still on this like road of trials and
the road of detours. I don't know. They have access.
I think they're going to run into bounty hunters next. I think that's going to be the thing, and we might see bounty hunters.
Why would they run into bounty hunters though?
Because Brutus said, get bounty hunters after them.
Right.
Because I want to see them kneel. I want to see him kneel at my feet.
Yeah.
And those pups.
Yeah. They have the location. They've punched it into the astrogation computer. They've blasted off.
Something happens.
Yeah.
They are waylaid.
Yeah. There are 5 more episodes to go.
They run out of gas.
Right.
The ship breaks down. It's all within the potentiality of what will happen, because the road is never straight.
I just think that if they get to the Great Barrier next episode, that means that the world will then break the barrier as well. That once they go through, the bounty hunters and the pirates are going to come too.
Like they'll come to
then it's
land,
all going to come to a head on at Atten.
I don't know.
Or at Atten.
at in.
No, it'll happen at Atten.
Whoa, too many ads.
But you can find me at Tavern Tales on Blue Sky.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, where can people find you?
Right there.
If they're looking for your stuff online. And what else do you do, sir, if they want to hear more of your voice, since you've spoken so much of it?
I've used so much of my voice tonight.
No. What are your other projects that you work on and you do?
I mean, I think people should listen to Tavern Tales Jr. It's an award-nominated podcast. It's been nominated twice for the Canadian Podcast Awards. This year, it has been nominated 5 times in total over the score of the 7+ years that it's been running, and as well nominated for Audioverse Awards several times over too. I think it's a great podcast that is amazing for adults and kids, and it fills my heart with glee.
And it is a D&D actual play live podcast.
Sure. We use the structure of Dungeons and Dragons to tell fantastical made-up adventures on the fly, mostly from the input from the kids. I never really know where we're going to go in a story or in an adventure. You feel a lot of
connection with Jod, I hear. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't know where they're going to go. I don't know what they're going to do. And I just build the story around their decisions as they happen. And that's what the first campaign and the third campaign are all about. But the second campaign is our Humblewood campaign, which is a pre-crafted module that the kids still break entirely, and we go off into left field. And
there's a lot of anti-capitalism.
And it is all about bringing down capitalism and the destruction of it upon democracy, all told by little kids pretending to be birds. So there you have it.
This is why it's an award-nominated podcast.
Probably. For fiction, of all things.
Yeah. All right, everyone. See you next week. I hope you have a excellent rest of your week, and come back next time. Cheers. Thanks. Thank you for listening to What the Force. I'm Marie-Claire Gould, your host. Our music is orchestral music by Christy Carew for What the Force. You can support the show directly on Patreon at patreon.com/whattheforce. We'd like to thank all our patrons, especially those who love and are obsessed with What the Force: Adrian, Sarah Joy, Scott, John, Sophie H., In Wild Space, Minky Moo, Derek C., How Rude, Neil, Christian, Luca, Carly Ann, and Scott C. Support the show by wearing the Force with our merch. Like and subscribe on YouTube, or leave a 5-star review on iTunes or other pod apps. It helps people find the show. You can connect with us on Blue Sky at WT Force, What the Force Podcast on Facebook, or on our website, whattheforce.ca, or Discord. Links are in the liner notes. Feel free to reach out and start a conversation. Cheers.